Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello. Hello. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome, welcome. Hop on. Say hello. Where you from? You know the standard drill. You know the standard drill. Talking about communication. Communicate with me. Damn it. Ideal. Okay, so here we are. So yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know how you're feeling about the communication. I have, I put up a post. What was it? Not yesterday. I think it was a couple days ago. And almost immediately I noticed that there was a fair amount of interaction with it. So that was, one of the reasons why I decide to do this podcast. And, the communication has been an issue for a while. Right. And in the spiritual circles, a lot of times you hear it talked about through like Mercury retrograde or other retrogrades. And they say, communication is going to be strained. And with all the planetary shifts going on, it seems like it seems like it's strained as much as it's not strained from a planetary sense. You hear about it all the freaking time. So anyway, like I noticed, I've been down this road a few times. So, I noticed some communication issues and some heightened awareness around it. Hey, Sarah, in California now. So yeah, I noticed some communication issues with, not only me and people I was interacting with, but I was noticing it in other people too. And it just seemed like, boy, a lot of people are struggling with communication right now. And of course, I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's a retrograde and all that stuff. And I'm not sure how to phrase this. I just decided not to look into it. I don't care. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's planetary. It doesn't matter if it's not. It doesn't matter. It's just the fact is, there's trouble communicating, and I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it. When I really slowed down, I was able to manage it well, and with the interaction from that post. Like I was getting a lot of interaction from people who don't normally interact on my posts, which, stuff like that catches my attention. So I'm like, okay, this seems to be striking a chord with people who either aren't normally interacting with my posts, so it's striking a chord with more people than usual, and or people who aren't necessarily into spirituality per se. And maybe they are. Maybe some of them might be more into spirituality than I realized because they just haven't talked to me about spirituality, So I mean, it's not to put anybody in a box. It's just I was getting more interaction from people who aren't normally interacting on my post. So I'm like, wow, okay, this seems to be really connecting with a lot of people with diverse backgrounds. So it seems like a lot of people are noticing this. And as I'm doing this, I kind of tune into things. I guess that's like, to me, it's just kind of how I function, because I've been this way for a long time. But like, I have to try to explain it to you guys, because that's what I'm doing on this podcast. I'm explaining stuff. So I'm like, I just kind of, I start contemplating something. And I guess what I do is I tune in to the energy of it. And then interesting thoughts start coming through often. And I start getting insights on things. And then I can feel into those insights. And if I feel into them, they start feeling more and more correct, if they're correct. If it's just some mind thought that shot through while I was trying to connect, then when I feel into them, they don't feel real true. And I'm like, it's just some thoughts that my mind was having. I guess there's really nothing there, because it doesn't really feel powerful. It doesn't feel like it's coming from within me. It feels like it's more coming from my head. So I tune into this and I'm like, okay. And like, immediately when I tuned in, I started seeing the global stuff, which flashed me back to last week when I did the talk, and I did some stuff before Monday, like with the Roe versus Wade stuff. I was really seeing, when Roe versus Wade was overturned, I immediately started seeing poor communication. And that's kind of what I was touching on around that. And I don't think at the time I fully understood like this aspect of it. I mean, it's fine. I talked about what I talked about at that time, and that was appropriate at that time. But now I'm starting to see that all of this is connected. So what I'm getting is that it's not just the Roe versus Wade thing. It's like, that was kind of a culmination. So I kept seeing culminations. I kept seeing patterns, and therefore, I gained perspective. So like, when I start seeing patterns and increasing severity, is like, okay, it used to be like this and now it's getting more extreme. But it's basically the same thing. It's just more extreme, and it's been happening for years and getting more intense and more intense and more intense. Now, all of a sudden, my brain starts seeing this, and it's like, oh, okay, this is a lesson. Like, we're supposed to be learning something. We're supposed to be evolving, and that's why the intensity is increasing, right? So then I start getting more clarity on what the lesson is. So as I'm seeing this, I'm like, okay, like before, one of the things that bothered me about a lot of the problems is that nobody's talking about the solution. Nobody's actually, let me rephrase that. I'm having trouble communicating. People aren't even talking about the problem. That's what's been like catching my attention for years now. People don't really talk about the problem. I mean, they start talking about the problem until somebody uses a word or a phrase that they don't like. And then they completely get off the problem and they focus on a disagreement with the wording with somebody. And now that becomes the issue. So they lose track of the original issue and what their stand is. And what happens is we have people fighting that are on the same side, and that's poor communication, right? So I touched on some of this stuff last week. I'm not going to go into it as in depth, but like, we have people arguing over all lives matter, no Black lives matter. Well, no, all lives matter. Yeah, but like, Black lives matter isn't saying that all lives don't matter. They're just saying that we have problems right now with the Black lives. So could we focus on that? Of course, white lives matter, or other color lives matter too. We're not saying that they don't. We're saying this. Can we focus on the problem? No, that's not what you mean. I'm going to tell you what you mean with your words. And it distracts. And really, it's like, yeah, but isn't the point that like a police officer killed a Black man? Like, isn't that shouldn't we be talking about that instead of the phrasing? So this is what's been happening, and it's happened with everything. It's been happening with the politics. It's been happening with the Black Lives Matter. It's been happening with the kneeling at the football games. It's been happening with the Roe versus Wade. It's been happening more and more and more. It's just that aspect captured my attention more, with this. So when I start looking into it, I'm like, oh my God, this is a pattern. What are we supposed to be learning? How are we supposed to be learning it? How can we use this as an opportunity? Because nothing is good or bad. It's just how we use it. So communication problems is not a bad thing. It's just in our society, what we're accustomed to doing. And I think that this is part of, what people do with Mercury retrograde too. They put their lives on hold and wait until it's over. Oh, there might be communication issues, so let's not communicate. Like, well, I mean, I didn't do that. Like when I was opening up my business space for the first time, Mercury was in retrograde when I was going to sign my lease. And I had several people go, like, you can't sign a lease during Mercury retrograde. There's going to be all kinds of problems. Like, no, there's not. Like, I'm opening up a business. Like the time is right. Like, I'm leaving my apartment and going into a new apartment and opening a business and living in the same build. Like, I'm not going to put this on hold because some planets are in a weird position or something. Like, I'm not handing my power away to anything. Like, I don't. So I'll be careful. I'll double read the lease and it'll be fine. And I signed a lease and it was fine. I was careful. So you can be careful and you can communicate more clearly, and you can get yourself into a space of understanding that there are possible communication issues. So when you go in understanding, hey, I got to be a little extra careful here, there might be communication issues, and you slow down instead of just going 90 miles an hour like we normally do, and you think about what you're saying. And then if somebody misunderstands you, you don't get pissed off right away, which is another thing most people do. It's like, just relax and just be like, oh, they don't understand me. Maybe I need to give them clarity. And the calmer you can stay, the calmer they stay. Because if you're communicating with somebody that's having difficulty communicating, just like everybody else is on the planet, or it seems like it, like, people get irritable when communication is not going well, and they snap quicker. So we need to be a little bit more patient. We need to understand that, yes, of course we can get frustrated sometimes, but so can other people get frustrated. So we need to be extra kind to one another and understand that we're all going through this and we're all in this together. And if we slow down and listen with the intent of understanding, not will they shut up so I can make my point? Will they stop talking so I can talk? Like, no, what are they trying to say? What, like, if we actually tried to understand the person that we were talking to, we attempted to understand their perspective. That's something that we don't do. We just, I think this, I think this, and it's this way, and because of this, and this. No, it's not. It's this way because of this, and this. Like, at no point, that is a useless conversation. It's literally useless. Nothing good is going to come out of it. The only thing that's going to come out of it is frustration. Guaranteed. You will make zero ground. It's a waste of breath. It's a waste of energy. And we are addicted to it. We have to slow down with the intent of actually understanding somebody's perspective, not to adopt it. It's not about adopting somebody else's perspective. It's about understanding it. Then if we understand it, we can choose whether we would like to adopt it or whether we would not like to adopt it. But we don't do that. We're not interested in somebody else's perspective. We just say ours, and it's either a holy crap, Glenn, you are an amazing, intelligent person. You are 100% right. Let me rephrase 110% right. And I'm on your side and I have nothing to add. Oh, okay. We're fine. So it either ends up that or screw you. Those are the only two ways, which is a waste, man. We don't get the other perspectives. I always love the Dalai Lama. I mean, I love that guy. But he was talking about, and I've said this before, he was talking about being accused of waffling, going back and forth, because when he was listening to somebody and they're explaining their perspective, he was listening and attempting to understand it. So he'd be like, okay, I understand. All right. Okay, good point. Interesting. Okay. I understand what you mean. And most other people would be like, oh, the Dalai Lama's on that guy's side. And then a person speaking the alternative side would speak, and the Dalai Lama would do the same thing. Yeah, okay. I understand. Oh, good point. Oh, I see what you mean. And they'd be like, oh my God, the Dalai Lama just waffles. He just agrees with everybody. And he's like, I'm not agreeing. I'm attempting to understand their point so I can connect with them and understand where they're coming from. This is how people work together and solutions are found, by understanding the perspective that the other side is coming from. If you don't understand the perspective that the other side is coming from, how do you expect to solve a problem? It's not going to happen. Think like me. Well, I think a different way. Do you want to hear about it? No. Think like me. Well, that's like, I'm an individual. I'm a human being. I'm unique. I have my own ways of thinking. I don't care. Think like me or you're wrong. This is how we think that like life works. It doesn't work like that, people. We're supposed to be working together. We're supposed to have conversations together. So what I'm saying is, this is it's I see everything as an opportunity. So all these problems that are happening in the world are opportunities. They're not problems. They're just, because I choose to look at them as opportunities. They're just things happening. And what we do with the things happening is going to determine whether we benefit or whether it's detrimental. It's what we do. We have free will. The earth isn't punishing us. God isn't punishing us. Humanity isn't hopeless. Half the people in the world hadn't suddenly turned into assholes. Like, none of this stuff is true. And if you think about it and slow down and think about it, this is kind of how we're acting. It sounds silly when I say it out loud because, like, of course, not half the people. No, we're walking around acting like half the people on the planet have magically turned to complete assholes. They have no common sense. They are complete jerks. They're basically Satan incarnate. And quite honestly, if we were a little bit meaner personality-wise, we'd kill them all. This is kind of how we're interacting with one another. If you're not on my side, we've turned into believers and non-believers. It's like we went back into the freaking, days of the religious wars and stuff. But my point is like, all these controversies are happening. All these structures are breaking apart and loosening up, so we can usher in a new way of being. And the only way that we are going to survive as a species is if we do things differently, because we are killing ourselves off. Like, this is what we're doing. Why? Because 75% of the people on the planet, give or take, are unhappy. There's wars going on all over the world, has been for many, 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 many years, decades. So we run around killing each other, not understanding each other, all kinds of problems, things falling apart, all this stuff is happening. So it's like, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to use it as an opportunity, or are we going to see it as a problem? So if you see it as a problem, I think that's self-explanatory. Oh my God, it's hopeless, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go off on that. But if you see it as an opportunity, And it's like all the things that are falling apart are broken. Like society is broken. I mean, it always was. It was built to fail because it was built on power. So, if there's power to be had, that is going to fail at some point because people are going to chase it. Well, their egos are. They're going to chase it and they're going to get it and they're going to try to control other people with it. And, money and power go hand in hand like that. So the system was made to fail, and we've come to an apex now. The spiritual shift that's happening is we are either going to kill ourselves off as a species or we are going to evolve. Those are the two choices. And a spiritual evolution is in play, and we are changing. This is why old ways of being are falling apart. So think about intelligence. Think about divine intelligence. Think about universal intelligence so you can understand how things work. So you have to take a giant step back, and it's a chaos theory. When you're real close to it, nothing makes sense. So you have to step way back and go, okay, there's a divine. Let's just see if we can make some sense out of this, assuming there's some sort of divine intelligence running the universe. Just see. Because the other is, no, there's no divine intelligence running the universe, and it's a complete melee cluster. Okay, whatever. I don't believe that to be true. It doesn't make sense to me, and there's about 1.5 million reasons why, but I'm not going to go down that route. So, what if there was divine intelligence? So, if there's divine intelligence running everything, then there must be an opportunity for us to do better. So if our system is all messed up, and then we're having, what would it look like if there was some sort of divine intelligence out there trying to get us to communicate better? What would that look like, hypothetically? And same, it uses the same laws in a microcosm as the macrocosm. So you can go both ways with that. You can look at the microcosm first. You can look at the macrocosm first. Let's look at the microcosm. So in the microcosm, we'll use an individual like myself. As an individual, very often, this happened in my case through alcoholism, we don't change until we hit bottom. Why? Because change requires deep introspection and a level of surrender that most people don't even understand is necessary because they're so surfacey in how they interact with life. That's not a stab at anybody. It just is. The newspaper isn't on the freaking stoop at a certain time, and we're going to call and complain because these kids today can't even deliver a newspaper anymore on time. And I guess I just showed my age. I don't even think they deliver newspapers anymore. But my point is, as soon as something isn't right, we get all upset. So because we're addicted to the surface things, we're just not deep enough. So when we're stuck on that surface level, we don't, and our life isn't going well. Like I said, 75%, actually I think it's up to 83% or something are unhappy in the world. What? Why are the numbers that high? That's insane. So literally being unhappy is actually normal. If you understand the meaning of normal, which I'm sure you do. So that's kind of the norm. So the way things work is basically people change through suffering in the beginning. Because that's the way divine intelligence has it set up? No, it's because we have the ability to change at any time. We're just addicted to this surface level thinking, and we don't go deep enough. So we don't make the changes. Quite honestly, most people don't even know that they can change. They don't even know that they're in control of their lives. So they don't think they can change. So it's not even on their radar. So they're just victims of everything. They're a victim of their boss, they're a victim of their spouse, they're a victim of their parents, they're a victim of their friends, they're a victim of their coworkers, they're a victim of life, they're a victim of everything. And that's where we're stuck, in the victim mentality. So people don't understand that they can actually change. So they don't. Until when? Until there's enough suffering. And people think like they go, oh, well, I've had enough suffering. No, you haven't. How do I know? Because you're not changing. That's how I know. Like when you get upset because a paper's not delivered. Like that doesn't mean you're suffering. Oh, but you don't understand. I'm really sad. Oh, so is 75% of the world. They're not changing either. That's not real suffering. Wait until 13 more things go wrong. Then maybe you'll be ready to change. Not because that's the way the system is set up. It's because people just don't do it. They just live the way society has taught them to live. And part of that is being unhappy, and they accept it. So the microcosm is we change through suffering because it's just not really on our radar. Not because it has to be like that. Same as in the macrocosm. So our world has been falling apart. Our money system has been getting worse and worse. I mean, what are we? Hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt at this point. We probably have to start inventing like new words for numbers. Because we're so in debt. Like, it's never going to get paid. There's no actual money system left in the world. It's an illusion. It's not real. We've destroyed it so much that it doesn't even, we have no idea what's going on in the government. There's so much hiding and lying and cheating and stealing. It's just insane. And, and all the problems going on in the world, like, please. We're going to change through suffering. So this is what's happening. All this stuff is going on, and part of it is communication. So what we need to do is, if we are going to, in the microcosm again, I slowed down when I recognized this, right? I slowed down and I went, Glenn, what is the best way to handle this? So what I came out with was, I was like, one, slow down. It always starts there. Relax a little bit. Don't take things personally. If you haven't read the 4 Agreements, go read it. Don't take things personally, because people are having trouble communicating. And if they have trouble communicating, they get triggered quickly. And when they get triggered quickly, they react and they lash out. So don't take it seriously if somebody misunderstands you. Don't take it personally. Don't take it seriously either. If somebody misunderstands you, or if you're misunderstanding them and they're getting upset, don't take that personally. Just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I'm not saying that you can let them abuse you, but you can be like, okay, you seem to be getting upset. Let's just take a time out for a minute. I really want to understand you. So let's just slow down for a moment, catch our breath, and then you can try explaining it to me maybe in a different way. And hopefully I'll really try to listen hard so I can understand you. You can do that. Slow everything down. Don't take things as an attack. Like I say, you don't have to allow people to abuse you. That's not part of it. But let's just keep it calm. I want to understand you. I just didn't understand what you had said. So maybe we can just talk about it. We can talk. Like, everybody can do this. Everybody, there was a time in our lives when we could have conversations with one another. This is not that foreign a thing. It's just that we don't do it now because everybody's so defensive, and it's attack and defend with everybody. So it's just slowing down and letting people know that we actually have an interest in hearing what they have to say. And then if we want something, we have to give it away. So if you want people to understand you and listen to you, then try to understand and listen to them first. not with an attachment to the outcome, not saying, well, if I listen to you, then you have to listen to me. No, that's control. That's not love. That's not healthy energy. It's just you go at it with an open, loving energy. You do your part. I'll try to listen to you, and I would like to hear what you have to say. Now, hopefully you'll listen to me. No, screw you. I'm not listening to you. All right. Okay. I listened to you. I heard your perspective. I understand you're not interested in listening to me. Okay. We might as well end the conversation then. And don't waste your breath. It's not worth it. They literally just said, I'm not interested in listening to you. So don't talk to them. There's like 7.8 billion people that you can talk to other than that person. Go find one. So when I started doing that, slowing down, really trying to understand, not taking things personally, understanding that the other person that I'm communicating with is probably caught up, possibly most likely in an unaware state. I'm being very aware right now. They're probably not as aware as I am right now because I'm putting my conscious thought into being aware around communication. So my heightened awareness around communication is really up there. They are probably not doing the same thing. So I should not expect the same things out of them. It's not, it's not about controlling what other people do. It's just about controlling what we have control over. Listening. We have control over whether we listen or whether we talk and how we listen. Are we listening with the intent to understand somebody, or we're just listening so we'll have our turn to get our point across? This is the stuff. And when I started doing that, I noticed my communication went actually better than usual. Why? Because I was focused on it and I was putting energy towards good communication. Guess what I got? Good communication. And it was really cool because when you do your work, this is kind of hard to explain. When you do your work, you get positive feedback. When you do your work in a difficult situation, you get more positive feedback. So because it's harder, right? So if you, let's say you can just sit alone in a room and meditate, right? And you experience some peace. Cool. Now you go out to a public park with all kinds of noises going around and you practice meditating there. You're going to be better at meditating and you're going to get more results. Why? Because there's more distractions and you have to heighten your experience of meditation. Therefore, your positive results are heightened. You see, so it's not just meditation, it's anything. One of the biggest energy shifts that, how I've transcended things is often through extreme situations. So when I was going for custody for my son, I had to take all my fears of the last 12 years of family court and my ex-wife and all this stuff, all the fears that I had and had built up and through experiences, I had to transcend all of that energetically because I knew if I went in with a fearful attitude, it wasn't going to go well. So I had to really get to a place where I was like, okay, I'm trusting in the universe for this. If he comes and lives with me, that's what I think is best for us. And if it happens, I'll be very excited and happy. If it doesn't happen, then that must mean that it's in our highest good for it to not happen. Maybe he's on his own journey. Maybe he has more lessons to learn. And if I'm involved, then I must have more lessons to learn too. So I have to trust that whatever happens, it's in my highest good and not try to control the outcome. So, and put my trust and my faith in something more intelligent that has a better perspective than me. So that's what I did. So, and, fortunately, my son came home with me the first day and ended up staying. So it worked out in my favor, but I had to be ready for both ends. So my point is that was difficult. That took a lot of soul searching. That took a lot of emotional, mental, and spiritual work to get myself to a place. And then after that, guess what? I didn't see my ex-wife for 5 years, maybe longer, living in the same town, same little town in the little state of Rhode Island. And I didn't see her once. I don't know if she saw me, but I didn't see her passing in traffic. I didn't see her at the grocery store. I didn't see her at Walmart because that was the only place to shop for the most part, or some of the other places I went. Never saw her for 5 years. Why? Because there was no benefit in seeing her. There was no lesson for me to learn. Why? Because I had transcended finally a lot of the lessons I had been learning for years through an extreme act of physically standing in a place of strength and love in a very extreme, difficult, fearful situation. So then I transcended it. So see, the payoff was really large. I ended that lesson because I learned it. You see, so this is what we need to do. So when we put like we look at things, and if they're difficult, we're like, oh no, I can't do that. It's really hard. Living miserable is hard. Why don't like, I'm not going to do it because it's hard? Is your life easy now? Oh my God, no, it's really hard. Hello? When my son and I were moving down to Florida for his senior year, he decided to do his senior year of high school down there. Of course, I was on board. I like the warm weather. So yeah, let's move back down to Florida. I used to live down there 10 years. Let's go. I can't wait to get back down there. But it was his decision, and I was talking with somebody and they were like, yeah, well, isn't that going to be hard? I was like, yeah, it's going to be hard. Then you shouldn't do it. I was like, well, that's not how I'm raising my son. I'm not raising my son to say like, hey, if something's hard, don't do it. That's not how I'm raising him. I'm raising him to teach him that if he wants something, go after it. Not don't do it because it's hard. So, this is what we need to teach ourselves. Like, communication's hard. Not communicating is really hard too. Which one you want to pick? Once you slow down and actually grow, so this is what I noticed. My experience was better. I experienced my experience with other people, because think about it. If everybody else is getting pissed off because they can't communicate with each other and you're the only one that they can communicate with, they love it. Like, oh, this is enjoyable. I can communicate with this person. They really enjoy it. And I enjoy it because I'm not being miscommunicated with. And if there is a miscommunication, I'm not taking it personally. Why? Because I'm aware that there might be issues. So I'm like, this is just a little issue. So my communication is heightened. The people that I'm communicating with, I do much better. So both of us, it's a win-win for both of us. And I'm heightening my skills of communication. So therefore, as I continue moving on through life, I communicate better and better and better. Why? Because I'm putting attention and energy towards becoming better at communicating. Instead of running around getting upset that people aren't understanding me. You see, so yeah, is it easy? No, it's not necessarily easy, but like what you're doing is hard and you have no possibility of your life getting any better. Like if your communication is struggling and you don't try to make it better, your communication is going to suck even more 10 years from now and even more 20 years from now. Make adjustments, people. Like when you see something in your life that isn't working, make an adjustment. So your life gets better. Don't just sit there and be like, well, this sucks. Can't communicate with anybody. Ridiculous. Sucks. Okay. 10 years later, guess where you're going to be sitting? And nothing stays the same unless it's getting better, it's going to be getting worse. So you're going to be more frustrated 10 years from now. So put attention on heightening your communication levels. Again, microcosm, expand it to a macrocosm. We're all in this together. If people start doing this, we're going to start working through problems. We're going to start understanding each other better. Just think about what the world would look like for a moment if there was love and good communication during the issues over the last 4 years. Can you imagine a world where we actually listen to one another and talk things out in a healthy way? Could you even imagine that? It's hard to imagine, honestly, because we're so far away from that. But like, if we're communicating, and like we could have worked through these problems. We would be much more effective working through our problems if we communicated, because we wouldn't get dragged off every time somebody said something we don't like. It's just, the fact is, I understand. I'm going to leave the political division off for a moment with with Democrats and Republicans. I'm just going to slide that to the side for a moment. If we dove deep enough, it would apply here too, but that gets a little confusing because of the polarity 50-50. Like a lot of the other things, like if you look at the issues like Black Lives Matter, really, the spawn of that was a man being killed on videotape, right? I can't believe I have to say this, but nobody thinks that killing another person needlessly is a good freaking idea. Okay. And now don't get me wrong. There's a few people out there that are going to back any level of stupidity. There is somebody out there, and there's several of them, that no matter what you do, you could go out there and find supporters of Hitler if you look far enough. So I'm not saying that there's nobody on the planet. I'm saying 90% of the people on the planet are grounded enough to know that law enforcement or anybody else on the planet shouldn't go killing people unnecessarily, we'll just say, and yet it turned into such a polarized issue. That's a problem with communication. Same thing with the kneeling at football games. Same thing with the Roe versus Wade overturning. It's communication, because what we are doing is there's a majority of people that agree that things should be that way, a particular way, and what's acceptable and what's not. And there's a majority there. And instead of us coming together as a majority and going, yes, I agree with this, I see it this way. Wait, that's not how you're supposed to see it. Screw you. You're a problem. You're a bad person. I hate you. Rah, rah, rah. Instead of doing that, we'd be like, this is how I see it. Oh, wow. That's your reasoning? Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. I look at it this way. Like, my reasoning is this, but hey, whatever gets you there, man. I don't care. You're on the same, this shouldn't be happening. I think it shouldn't be happening. Let's bond over that and let's go make change happen. If we did that through communication, we would be solving these problems. We would come together as people. Like, we think the way we act is the government has control over us. No, they don't. They don't have any control over us. It's a minority. If the people just stood up and said, excuse me, we elected you and you're supposed to be representing us and you're not, so you have to go, what would they do? How could they stop us? Gandhi did it. He just went, no. You have to carry a card in India if you're Indian. No. No. And guess what people did? They band together. And they didn't get into arguments and go, well, like, my card's laminated And if it's laminated, then it'll last longer. So maybe we shouldn't fight it. Like nowadays, that would be like, it would divide India nowadays. There'd be people like, well, I'm against plastic cards and I'm against paper cards. Well, you're an idiot. Who's going to be against a plastic card? Well, you're an idiot. Paper cards are outdated. It's like, no, excuse me. The point is that you have to carry a card and you guys are both on the same page. So why are you arguing over paper or plastic? This is what we're doing. As soon as somebody says something we don't like, we take it personally, we attack, we don't communicate, we don't try to understand. When was the last time the average person, and you know what's funny? I'm gonna ask the question, then I'm gonna expand on it. When was the last time most people slowed down and listened and tried to understand what the other person was saying? Literally slowed down enough, thought in your brain, I am going to try to understand the perspective that this person is coming from. I'm not going to try to convince them of my perspective or wait until they shut up so I can share my perspective. I literally want to understand the way their brain works. When was the last time anybody did that? And you know what? Most people listening right now are going to go, I do it. I do it all the time. Bullshit. You don't. Because if most people did it all the time, then we wouldn't be here. You know, we think that we're the only good one and society is messed up. We are society. Society isn't a thing. It's made up of a bunch of people. So for society to be dysfunctional, for society to have communication problems, we have communication problems. I'm working on my communication. Why? Because I obviously have communication problems. How do I know this? Because I'm part of society and society has communication problems. That's how I know this. And instead of trying to defend ourselves, if you open up your mind and just go, wow, I should really work on communication issues. Yes, then we'd get somewhere. Instead, somebody says you might have communication issues and we're like, I don't have communication. I try to understand people all the time. No, you don't. You don't. I mean, are there a few of you? Of course there's a few of you. But most people thinking that, you're lying to yourselves. It's not the facts. You don't do it. I mean, I've been living this way for 18 years. It's my entire life, and I have room to grow. I think most of you guys have room to grow too. It's okay. It's not judgment. You're not a bad person. It's just we have to be honest with ourselves if we expect to change. You know, we have a 75% unhappiness rate, for Christ's sakes. We need to start doing things differently. We have to stop defending what we're doing like it's right, because it's not. What we're doing isn't right. And there's technically no right or wrong. It just simply doesn't work. That's what I mean by right. There's no right or wrong. It's just, it doesn't work. If you're doing things that don't work, then you should change them. And if you're in a society that is doing things that doesn't work, you need to question them and change them yourself in your world. This is why, be the change you wish to see is such a powerful statement. We need to change. When there's enough of us that have focused on communication and a more loving way of being and understanding one another and uniting and coming together instead of dividing, when enough of us individuals do that, it changes the collective energy. And that's when large social change takes place. We think large social change takes place when somebody in the government does it. No, it doesn't. It takes place grassroots. All the changes take place grassroots because they are energy based. Like you can, I always use slavery for this. Like slavery doesn't end in a world. Like if the United States has like 75% of the people that believe slavery is right, it wouldn't have ended. It would have stayed in place. And I don't know what the numbers are, but there was a majority of people in the United States that thought that slavery was bad and it was time for it to be outdated. That's why it changed. And then, it manifested in Abraham Lincoln doing stuff, from the government, it manifested as that. But that's not what actually did it. It's energy. It's the energy going in one way with enough people. This is how we be the change we wish to see. You work on you, I'll work on me. We'll just keep individual. And then all of a sudden we create a healthier collective. And then we stand up and we go, we're all on the same page? No. That's where our power is. So we have to work on ourselves. Let's see. I'm going to read some comments. Hey, Mike. Listening live from the gym. Of course you're in the gym in Arizona, Mike. Where else would you be? I've seen some pics. You look great, by the way. Nicole. It's hard to communicate. Let me see. And before I get to this, hey, Rhonda. Thanks for tuning in. So Nicole, it's hard to communicate when there is emotion involved. When you take the emotion out and really listen, communication, understanding can happen. Yeah. And that, that's another thing we have to understand. Nowadays people are so protective of their emotions. It's like emotions are there to capture our attention and let us know that something is important and we should look at it and think about it. Emotion is not there to take action out of. Emotion is not there to stay in our body. Like, people think that if they stop being mad about something, that means they don't care, which isn't true. And this is why there's so much emotion, is because people think that emotion is necessary, and they have a right to it. And, well, they made me mad, so I have the right to be mad. Yeah. So what? So you get to walk around mad. Congratulations. Sounds like a wonderful existence. Like, what purpose does being mad at something do? It doesn't help anything. It doesn't change anything. All it does is make you emotional and incapable of really listening. It makes you incapable of thinking clearly, so you don't make good decisions. It's not a good thing to act out of. It's just there to capture your attention and say, hey, this is important. I really don't like this. Oh, really? Yes. Oh, okay. It upset me. Oh, all right. Well, I better look at this. I got really upset. Oh, okay. So first off, I'm not a victim of anything. We got to get out of this victim mentality. I'm not a victim of anything. So I have to understand that, if I'm angry, it's probably because I feel like a victim of something. So it's like, okay, well, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, so that's why I'm angry. Okay. I understand that. So let's see. What can the Supreme Court ultimately control? If you needed to do something, would you do it anyway? Yes. Okay. And can you help others to do it anyway? Yes. Okay. So let's just wrap your brain around people. The government can't really control you as much as you think that they can control you. Okay. So let's just don't give your power away to the government. Just be like, you know what? Screw you, government. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. Okay, cool. That's more empowering, and this is a whole nother podcast, so I'm just condensing it. So it's like, yeah, okay. So now I'm empowered instead of a victim of. Okay, cool. Now from that energy, I'm not creating resentments and walking around in anger and negativity with all that poison flowing through my body every day, thinking that life is unfair and the government's unfair and everything sucks and it's not worth being human. And I'm like, we got to get out of that mentality. Empower yourself. They can't freaking stop me. No, they can't. Okay, cool. Good. Now from that, what can we do? now we can think clearly because the emotion isn't controlling our thought processes. Because we're not victims of anything. So there's not a ton of emotional charge left. But you still firmly stand in your belief that this shouldn't have happened. Okay, understand that. Now use your brain that's not all filled with emotion. Now it's clear thinking to look towards a solution. Maybe we should go after the Supreme Court. I don't know. They're the ones who to overturn the decision. So if I don't like the fact that they overturned the decision, maybe we should, band together, unite, and or at least discuss going after the people who actually did this. That's intelligent. So we do have to take the emotion out. It's okay to feel your emotion. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to get hurt. But if you think that just because it's okay and it's natural to feel those things, that you have the right to stay in them and they serve some sort of constructive purpose moving forward, you're lying to yourself. They don't. They don't serve a constructive purpose moving forward. So use the emotion for what it's there for, and then work through it, and then start working on the solution. Let's see. So Rhonda. It takes time to heal over certain circumstances beyond your control. Well, I mean, that's I could take that a lot of ways. I mean, the only thing I can say about that, like, circumstances beyond your control, that's a fine line. I mean, are there certain things that are beyond our control? Well, yes, of course there are. But it doesn't mean that we need to be a victim of them. It's shifting your perspective, and it takes time to heal. No, it doesn't necessarily take time to heal. That's a misconception in reality. People think that things take time because on earth, most things take time, like school takes time, and things are very linear here on earth. So we think everything takes time, and spiritually speaking, there is no such thing as time. So it doesn't take time to heal. It takes alignment. I healed probably, I'm going to guess at numbers here. I healed probably 75% of my life issues in 3 months when I got sober. Why? Because I'm special? No. It's because it was alignment. I went through the process of the 12 steps, which are there to induce a spiritual awakening. What is a spiritual awakening? It's a shift of perspective. This is what I love about spirituality, is like, we think we have to, I don't even know what we think we have to do. I have vague ideas, but it's unconscious. So we don't really have an answer. What do you think we need to do? So the question, I'm going to ask this to make a point. Like, if it takes time to work through our emotions, like, what does that look like? How would we work through our emotions? Like do you feel them a little bit, and then some of it releases, and then next week you feel a little more, and a little more releases, and then next week a little more? Like, is that how we think it works? Like, if we say it takes time, what I would like to know what people think happens in that time. And I'm not saying that time can't play a part. Of course, it can play a part. I'm just saying it's not the end all be all. It's not the only thing. Like, of course, well, I mean, even in my example, 3 months, it wasn't 2 seconds, right? So it took me a little while to go through the process. So of course, I mean, time can play a part to some degree, but it's more about alignment with the perspective. So when we look at life, we look at it from straight on perspective in this example, right? This is what I love about spirituality. When I woke up, this is what I experienced. So, like, I was looking at my life and everything was a mess. financially, emotionally, mentally bankrupt. My son, 1,400 miles away, suicidal, hopeless alcoholic, couldn't stay sober, the whole nine. Okay. So this is me, and this is how I'm looking at life. Now, all of a sudden, I go through a 12-step process that starts shifting my perspectives. And by the time I was halfway through, literally after my 5th step, my perspective shifted at the extreme. So now I'm looking at life from a different perspective. And for those of you that aren't watching this on video, it's like I just turned my chair and so half of my problems that were dragging me down were instantly gone. They were literally just not problems anymore. We don't have to go through every little thing in our life and fix it. That would take forever and we would never get there. So like it's alignment and it's shifting our perspective. So like most things that upset people, it's because of our perspective, and our perspective is our reality. So we're sitting there and we're going like, this upsets me. So I'm just going to, Rhonda, I can't shut off my emotions, but I understand where you're coming from. Right. Great. So you understand where I'm coming from. So I can't shut off my emotions. Again, we are addicted to feeling our emotions, because I never, this is what I hear back all the time. I just can't shut off my emotions. Nobody's asking you to. I never said you should just shut off your emotions, but this is what they defend the right to be unhappy. They defend the right to be sad. They defend the right to be upset by saying, well, I can't just shut them off. Well, there's something other than just shutting them off. I never said that you should shut them off. So to expand on this, I'm going to give the example I've given many times before. Child support system, very difficult situation. At the end of the child support, last phone call, they're giving me a hard time. I get upset, right? So I get upset, and I'm pacing around. I end up hanging up the phone, and I'm pacing around my place, swearing, releasing that energy. I'm upset. And if I told the story in detail, everybody'd be like, Glenn, you have the right to be upset. Okay, cool. So I have the right to be upset. I'm right. They're wrong. They're doing bad stuff. I'm not. So I have the right to be upset. And this, and there was little aspects of this for 18 years. Yeah, for 18 years, I was dealing with this system. And, and I processed information to the best of my ability as it happened, but some of it still built up, and I blew a gasket. So I was very upset. Then finally, once I felt some of that emotion and I paced around swearing, letting it go, after, 10, 15 minutes, it's like, okay, Glenn, do you want to stay mad? Yes. Pace, swear. Okay. 5 minutes later, Glenn, do you really want to stay mad? Well, no, of course I don't want to stay mad. Okay. Well, then why don't you shift your perspective? Because that's what causes our anger. It's the way we look at things. We deem it bad and it shouldn't have happened. Therefore, it triggers anger. Right? So what I needed to do was go and say, listen, I need to reframe this so every time I think about it, it doesn't cause anger. And I can release the energy of anger that's inside of me, because I don't want to walk around with this for the next 40 years. I don't want to get pissed off every time somebody says the words child support. I don't want that. I don't want to get pissed. I don't even remember the guy's name now. See, this is because there's no emotional charge. Back then, I knew exactly what his freaking name was, and I hated that name. It was something common too, like freaking Tom or something. Not even sounds right now. It's funny. But so like I had to be like, okay, this guy, it doesn't do his job. He's a jerk. He like when I was trying to pay child support, yeah, it could have been Joe. When I was trying to pay child support, they would attack me anyway. And then now it's a female, and she's literally, defrauded the child support department twice, and they've done nothing. Plus, she's literally not paying after a court order, and they've done nothing. Like, so I want to be mad at them and say, why are they they're not doing their job and I'm a victim of it and blah, blah, blah. So I was going to stay angry as long as I had that mindset. So I had to shift it and go, this guy probably works with a ton of deadbeat dads. People are constantly lying to him, constantly trying to manipulate him. He sounds exhausted all the time. He's probably got a huge caseload. The guy probably doesn't like his job. I mean, he literally sounds miserable. And he probably just wanted to get me off the phone because I was upset and he didn't want to freaking listen to it. That's probably more likely. So once I shifted my perspective to that and I wasn't his victim, then it didn't fuel the anger. So I didn't deny my anger. I didn't stuff it. I felt it. And then I shifted my perspective so I could transcend it and live a healthier life moving forward instead of walking around with a resentment for the last 40 years. And if we do not learn how to do this, we are going to be walking around with resentments. This is why everybody's so angry. Nobody knows how to process information. 40, 30 years ago or something, the psychologist came out and said, people are stuffing their emotions. You shouldn't do that. And everybody said, I have the right to my emotions. And now everybody's running around, waving a flag for the last 30 years going, I have the right to my emotions. I have the right to my emotions. Yeah. So why do you want the right to feel like crap? Why are you basking in sadness and misery and saying and defending your right to be upset? Why do you want to stay upset so bad? I understand you have the right to your emotions. And I understand that you should feel them. I just think it's foolish to stay in them. That's what I think. I think it's freaking foolish. When something upsets you, if somebody comes up to you 10 years later and you're still upset by that, that's a freaking problem. Like, we need to make adjustments in our lives, make adjustments. If something bothers you, find a way to live with it not bothering you. That's how less stuff bothers you, Yeah. Well, there you go. See, this is, whoops, I clicked the wrong one. I chose to shift my energy. Rhonda was saying this. I chose to shift my energy and I went back to school and it changed my perspective about life. Yes. Like, if we don't like where we are, change it, all right, cool, Rhonda. I'm glad it was. I'm glad it was connecting once I got deeper into the explanation. Cool. Thank you for your input. And I'm probably going to wrap up on this. I was referring to close deaths in my family, but I'm moving forward, and they would be proud of me. Yes, that's it. Like, close deaths and family is just such a wonderful example because it's like, this is something that people struggle with, and it's because it's intense emotions, and there's nothing wrong with going through a grieving process, but we're supposed to go through a grieving process. People are upset. You see it on Facebook all the time. Oh, my father's been dead for 20 years. I miss him every day. My heart is broken like the day it happened. Like, really? That's not normal like that. Well, it might be normal in our warped society, but it ain't natural. Like, people have been dying. Do you think if you went back to a Native American tribe like 300 years ago and like you talk to a Native American who's like 45 years old and he's going, oh my God, my father died 20 years ago and every day it's just torture. No, they understood death. Like, it's part of life. People die. I'm not saying that we don't have a right to feel sad or grieve. Of course we do. We miss them. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to miss people. It's okay to be sad. There's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with going through a grieving process, but it is a process, and there's a beginning and there should be an end, and some are more difficult than others. Of course, a lot of people struggle more when it's suicide. A lot of people struggle more when it's a young child. Yes. Doesn't mean that it's not the same process. And we're never going to be the same. No, we're not. Grief can do that. We're never going to be that. Well, like I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't lost anybody close to me in the last week. And you know what? My life's never going to be the same. And nobody died. No, life's never the same. It's always constantly evolving. It never stays the same. Whether somebody died or whether they didn't die, your life is not going to be the same. So that's not a good argument for like, oh, but my life's never going to be the same. You don't understand. I don't understand that people die and your life is never going to be the same. Yeah, I do. I understand that very clearly. Do you know how many people that I've lost? Hundreds, literally. And some of them very close. I have worked through some of this stuff. And people, you know what? Other people have lost people closer and have gone through more heartache than I have gone through. But it doesn't change the dynamic. I understand dynamics. That's what I do. And because I implement these dynamics, my life gets happier. People run around defending their right to be upset, and then they're upset, and they're like, well, I'm right. It's like, yeah, but you're upset. Like, why do you want to, like, I would rather be wrong and happy than right and upset. Maybe it's just me. I would much rather be wrong and happy. What does being right get me? If it gets me upset, then I don't want it. I'd rather be wrong. All right. So kind of went off on a different angle, but apparently it needed to be talked about, because there is certainly an emotional tie into this. So thank you, Nicole, for pointing me down that road. I think it was helpful. So people, this is a global thing. If we use it as an opportunity to become better at communicating, then one, our personal circumstances are going to be much more beneficial. It's going to be more pleasurable because we're going to communicate better, and we're going to change our own lives at our own pace, and it's going to be good. So our life gets better if we do our work, and then we'll interact with others around us better. That's enough, man. That's enough to do the work. Try understanding people. Why? Just because it makes your life better. That's why. Everything else is icing on the cake. I truly believe that I teach everything to make our lives more peaceful and enjoyable. Like that's why I teach it. I don't teach this foo-foo spiritual crap that goes, oh, just float around. Don't worry about stuff. No, because you can't take that and bring it into actual life circumstances. What I teach, you can bring it into your life and implement it. Actually do it. Like, I'm not telling you to slow down and set the intention to understand people because it sounds neat on a podcast. I'm literally telling you to do that. Literally slow down. How do you slow down? You go like this. And you just come back into the present moment. You stop going forward real fast. You slow down. Then what do? You say, I'm going to try to understand what this person is saying. It's my intent here. What are you saying? What's your perspective? Where are you coming from? I want to understand this being. Like, do that, man. Not creepy like I just did it. Set the intention and really put your focus on trying to understand them. Literally do that, and it will literally enhance your life. Experiment with it for 2 weeks. And please write me and tell me your experiences. Please, please. It's this type of stuff that changes your life. It sounds funny, but you got to do it. Actually do it. And it will change your life. You will see benefits coming from it. I promise you. So go do that. And then we can start being the change we wish to see. And then all these planetary retrograde, oh my God, communication is real difficult. It'll be like, no, man, it served its purpose. It made it so difficult that we couldn't even get through our day-to-day life unless we learned how to communicate better. This is what's happening. Like things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse until we learn what we need to do to turn the tide so we can start getting better and better and better and better. So like if we don't change, you think communication sucks now? Just do nothing. Just don't do what I'm asking you to do or your version of it. Just don't do anything and pay attention what communication looks like 6 months from now. And don't do anything longer and see what communication looks like a year from now. It's just going to continue getting worse and continue getting worse. And then everybody will just, we have to be victims. So we'll blame it on the planets this time because it's difficult to blame global communication issues on one another. So we'll just blame it on planets. And we'll be like, well, I have no control over the planets. I mean, the planets are making it hard to communicate. Come on. Like this is that's the system you think divine intelligence comes up with? Like we have 7 point something billion people on the planet and they all need to communicate. Otherwise problems occur. So what I'm going to do is we'll just slam in a retrograde to just make their lives that much more difficult on a regular basis for no apparent reason. Not so they can get better at it or anything. Just because I'm freaking mean and vicious and I feel like attacking my creation because it's Tuesday and I'm bored. So I'm just going to attack my creations and make their lives more difficult for no apparent reason. Here, put the planets like this. Damn. Yeah, that hurts, huh? Good. I love seeing my creation suffer. Like this is what we imply when we think we're victims of the universe. We're not victims. It's not doing that to us. It's doing it for us. If we expand, it expands. We're part of it. It's supporting us. It's trying to get us to see that the way we're communicating isn't working. So please try doing it a different way. That's what it's trying to get us to do. So hop on board, man. Hop on board the communication train and ride that thing. All right, peeps, I'm going to fly. You're very welcome, Sarah. Thank you guys. Thanks all for tuning in. And yeah, if you're catching the end, I think this could be helpful. So check it out. You guys can watch this on YouTube whenever you want. And, and Facebook too for a period of time too. So, and I upload all these to all the platforms, all the platforms, including Insight Timer. So these podcasts are going to be on Insight Timer, which is a great meditation app. And it's got free talks like this and all kinds of stuff from lots of amazing teachers all around the globe. So it's a good resource, All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. And you're very welcome, Rose. Good to see you. One of my hometown school friends. So, all right. Peace, everybody. Work on your communication and just enhance your life and you'll see things getting better around you too. So thanks. Take care. Talk at you guys soon. Peace.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons and Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.